All right, time to talk some Jets, and joining me now is Dan Leberfeld of Jets Confidential Magazine. You can subscribe to Jets Confidential Magazine by just going to jetsconfidential.com. Dan, thanks for joining us again.
My pleasure. Good evening, Joe.
Good evening to you. It's a late night after an early morning here. The Jets offense seemed like they might have still been a little asleep to start this one, shall we say. They did eventually pick it up later in the game, but Rodgers picked off 3 times in this one. One went back to the house. Why isn't the Jets offense clicking right now?
Well, I think the lack of work at training camp is part of it. An offensive line that has 4 new pieces, and to not play in the preseason to get that chemistry going was far from ideal. And Rodgers today, you look at those 3 interceptions, all were his fault. You know, sometimes an interception, you could blame the receiver or the offensive line. Those 3 were his fault. The Van Ginkel pick 6, the pass to Lazard over the middle, overthrown, and the Mike Williams pick at the end. That pass was not thrown in the right spot. I mean, if you're going to throw it to 6'4" Mike Williams, throw him open, 50-50 ball on the sideline, you got to throw it up so he can go up and get that rebound. The placement of that pass was terrible. Last week he hurt his knee. This week he hurt his ankle. How much longer is he going to hold up at 40 years old with the beating he's taking?
Yeah. I'm starting to approach that age, so I know about some of the aches and pains I deal with just getting out of bed on a daily basis here. But look, that wasn't the only problem. The Jets played a very undisciplined game today. They were penalized 8 times for 76 yards in this one. So does that strictly go on the head coach for these problems that we've seen a couple times now when it comes to the penalties?
Yeah, he deserves some of the blame, and his staff. They just look like a team that one good play, one bad play, one good play, 2 bad plays. There's no consistency. There's no winning culture yet where you feel like, hey, they got this one. You never feel that with this team. So that's something they got to still establish. Now, they're not out of it, though. I mean, they're 2-3. The AFC's watered down. They're getting the kinks out. I mean, some people would argue early in the season is like the preseason. I mean, they should be past that point at this point. But I just think that they need to start playing better if they want to grab a wild card spot. I don't think they're going to win the division. Though Buffalo is not playing great. I don't think they're going to win the division. But the AFC is so watered down, Joe, that if they get their act together, hang around the 500 mark, they'll be in contention in December.
All right, you mentioned that, though, the Bills scuffling a little bit right now. Obviously, Miami got a win today, Bills with a loss. Do you think the AFC East is still a possibility for this Jets team despite the slow start?
No doubt about it. Buffalo is still getting past the fact and getting used to the fact that Stephon Diggs isn't there anymore, and they're trying to establish a number 1 receiver. And Diggs was on the other team today, the Houston Texans, and they prevailed over Buffalo. And Buffalo had a lot of defensive injuries today. So Buffalo is a team they play next, and they're a beatable team. Miami, who knows? If they hang around and Tua comes back, maybe they are a team to be reckoned with in the AFC East. But I'll tell you what, the Garrett Wilson story is something to keep an eye on as we continue to look at his production. Yes, he had 11 catches today, Joe, but it was for a 7.8 average, which is not good enough for a player with his quickness and his speed.
2-3 start, headed back home. Is Robert Saleh on the hot seat in your eyes?
Well, I don't think so, because this owner never replaces his coach in season. So based on past history, I would say no.
Dan Leberfeld, Jets Confidential. Thanks for shining some light on our show tonight. Appreciate your time, sir.
My pleasure, Joe.